Medical science isn't rocket science. In fact, it's hardly science at all. I say that very tongue in cheek, but there's something massively different about medicine as a science that makes it probably unique amongst the sciences. The issue with medical science became most visible during the big coof outbreak of 2020. At probably no other time in history has science been put on display at the absolute forefront of all societal discussion. Never has it been expected to perform without flaw. At no other period has science generated so much controversy and division. If I were to say to you that you have to put your life on the line, that you have to choose to go up against a life threatening condition that needs to be treated with medicine, or you have to go up against a life threatening situation that involves motions, and physicists would make their best effort to protect you. And then the year is 1880. Choose. Of course, that assumes we're not talking about radiation, which neither science will help you with in 1880. You probably picked physics. You should have picked physics. A team of physicists could have come up with ways to deal with slowing velocity, protecting key organs from impact, things like that. If you chose medicine, you would likely be facing bloodletting or leeches as a solution. In 1880, most sciences developed many of the foundational ideas that are accepted today, with refinements, of course. Truly foundational work in medicine came much later. But to be honest, that foundation is still being set as we speak. Many medical ideas in my lifetime have had absolute reversals. In the 60s, eggs would have been assumed to have been a wholesome food. In the 70s, it was singled out as a major contributor to heart disease based on the ideas of the time involving dietary cholesterol. Many medical practitioners have done a complete 180, now saying eggs are one of the best foods available. Dietary cholesterol has gone from enemy number one to debate over whether it has minimal impact or no impact at all. What about fat versus carbohydrates? Up through the 90s, all sound medical practitioners would tell you the path to health was elimination of fat in your diet in favor of complex carbohydrates. The pendulum is swinging on this one as well. During the coof, I had people that absolutely told me that I absolutely had to accept peer-reviewed medical papers as the best actionable available information. If a medical paper said something was true, then it was actionable. I couldn't base my decisions based on past outcomes of medicine. I could only make a rational, well-educated decision if I had peer-reviewed medical papers countering the current narrative. Let's compare astrophysics to medicine for a moment to understand part of the issue. At one point, three theories of moon formation were considered to be roughly equal running as being accurate: fission, capture, and impact. When computers became powerful enough, scientists were able to much better model the potential formation theories. With the ability to model more convincingly, astrophysicists rapidly abandoned the other theories in favor of collision theory alone. One figure I saw noted that the community was initially split into thirds and all coalesced to nearly 90% favoring collision. I'm a big space and astronomy enthusiast, so I followed this development with interest. This is a pretty earth-shattering, or moon-shattering reversal. Here's the point. Unless my life somehow becomes dependent on moon mining, the impact isn't all that great on me. However, let's say I took medical science for its word in the 70s and 90s. Reducing consumption of eggs would likely have been bad for my health. If I had embraced the low-fat craze, I might have increased my odds of diabetes or artery blockage. If the fission theory for moon formation becomes totally debunked, the impact on me is pretty much non-existent. If I eat following the best guidelines medical science can recommend for 2 decades before they realize they are wrong, I may have reduced my very lifespan. Everyone has the right to be skeptical about the findings of medical science because it is a science that ultimately impacts the individual. Let's do rocket science. Let's say the goal is to put a payload in orbit. We achieve this, but there are some issues with delicate instruments being rattled too hard. We check the launch data and discover there's a fairly significant vibration developing when the rocket is 200 feet off the ground that subsides around 300 feet. We decide that might be the issue. We develop a stabilization system that eliminates the vibration during that 200 to 300 foot ascent. Then we decide to do something mind-bogglingly stupid. When our test rocket reaches 301 feet, we're going to shut off all monitoring equipment, plug our ears, and shut our eyes. We now have no clue what happens to the rocket after 300 feet. We don't even know if it achieves orbit. We don't know if new problems were introduced along the way. Let's say we take this stupidity one step further. Even though we have no idea what happened after 300 feet of boost, we recommend that all other rockets adopt the same stabilization fix. Now you might say, well, no one would do something like that. However, in medicine, we do this all the time. In medicine, new procedures and new medicines are developed to fix a symptom. Trials over limited periods of time are performed. If it's determined that the issue has been mitigated, then they assess the short-term unwanted side effects. If the balance is considered acceptable, the procedure or medicine goes into widespread usage. Rarely are studies performed that continue over the lifespan of the individual to determine what else might occur. Rockets and people are different. It's not practical to follow a test group from trial inception until the end of their life to see the full scope of what is happening and what that intervention has done. Nonetheless, it's the case. If we have medical intervention to some degree, all of us remain undocumented test subjects until we slip the mortal coil. It may appear that I'm dumping on medical scientists and science. Actually, I'm not, but not yet at least. But I will a bit later. One of the huge issues with medical science is complexity. I think it's fair to say that no other science has to deal with issues on this scale. We have DNA, to which we're only really scratching the surface in terms of understanding all it does and what we can do about it when there are issues in that area. We haven't fully explored everything the cell does. We don't fully know how all the chemical and hormonal interactions work in the body. We are at the dawn of understanding what our gut bacteria does for us. Place on top of that, there are so many variables involved the individual that even if we perfectly understood one person, how their genes work, how their diet and lifestyle choices and environmental factors impacted them, we still might not be able to fix a problem they have with all that information we had on that one person. And that information may not be universally usable on the rest of the population. In other words, the issue of complexity causes massive flaws in scientific interpretation that are not the fault of the scientists or their methodology. There's also the issue of ethics. First, there are things we can do in other sciences that we can't do to humans. This limits our understanding and slows down progress because of the drive to try to fix medical issues. It causes us to choose short-term improvements versus long-term unknowns. It just goes with the territory. Then there's the issue of money. If a scientist refines the gravity mechanics of a black hole, they might end up with a small grant, but it isn't likely to yield the kind of money that a new procedure or a new medicine creates in terms of billions of dollars down the line. This dramatically impacts how this particular science is performed. Then there are politics. It's highly unlikely that a government will pressure a physicist to alter their findings on the speed of gravity. In furtherance of political desires, however, medicine faces great pressure at many turns and perhaps even constantly. We saw this very strongly during the coup, that politics trumped scientific medicine. So those are just a few thoughts, but ultimately what it comes down to is I don't accept medical science as being the equal of the other sciences. When I hear a scientific breakthrough in physics or chemistry, astrophysics, any of the more physical sciences, once you get away from the human body, I'm far more prone to take them at their word. In fact, I probably won't need nearly as much proof. A couple of well-written papers might suffice. However, when it comes to medical science, it is not the equal of the other sciences in any way, for all the reasons I said above. I will not take it as being as close to the truth or a fact as the other sciences. I will be very skeptical of it, and I have every right to be. So next time the COOF comes around, don't expect me to worship at the altar of medical science, because there's a little bit too much goat blood on that altar for my tastes. So tell me what you think below in the comment section. Is medical science the equal of other sciences? Or is it acceptable to treat it with a different metric, as I'm suggesting in this video? Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm has brought you here and you're not one of my regular subscribers, please consider subscribing. And if you know somebody who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.